Hello. These slides are going to introduce you to the concept and skill of reflection, which is an essential skill for getting the most from your experiences. And when you have any kind of an experience, how you learn the most from it is by reflecting about it. And the more you reflect, the more you learn. So that makes sense, but what actually is reflection? Well, here's a definition. You got it? Okay, that's a long definition, and it makes reflection seem like something really complicated, but it's not. Really, you do reflection all the time. So let's consider, for example, that you had an argument with a friend, or you get a paper or a test back and you're disappointed with a grade, or you meet some new people and you have a really good time. So afterwards, you start to think about it. So let's go back to the argument. You might wonder things like how the argument got started, whether you could have done something different. You might wonder why your friend acted in a certain way. And when you do that, you're reflecting. You're considering your experience from different perspectives, trying to make sense of it as best you can. Now that's an example of reflection that comes from inside of you when you start to wonder about something. But reflection can also come from external sources, such as when someone asks you to think about an experience in a certain way. So now, for example, let's say you read a book, you see a movie, you go to a museum, and you can do that, and you probably will learn something. But let's suppose that either before or after the experience, you read a little bit about the author, the artist, you read about the historical context for the work, you read about specific things that you could look at or listen for. Now, when you consider the experience from those perspectives, and it deepens your understanding, you're reflecting. Now, for any experience, you can spend a little bit of time, or a lot, on reflecting. And you can think about the experience from a variety of perspectives. You always want to begin with a brief recap of the event. And this is so that someone who's reading it, or you, if enough time has gone by, you have just a brief description of the experience, not a lot of detail. And then, here's some questions that give you different perspectives, kind of like lenses or effects on a camera. You could ask, what did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? And why? What were you thinking and feeling during the experience? How was this experience similar or different from other experiences that you've had? And can you apply the ideas from a class or something you read, or a presentation that you saw, or a conversation that you had? Can you apply those ideas to what you experienced? Now that sounds simple enough, right? And it's pretty simple, but there's a little bit more to it, because good reflection always leads to thought and action. So in addition to thinking about your experience from several different perspectives, a good reflection gets you to draw some tentative conclusions and plan for the future. So you could think about it in three parts. The what, so what happened, and then considering that from different perspectives. And then the so what do you think you learned? And equally important, the now what are you going to do in the future when you're in similar situations or when you have other opportunities to learn? Now you can reflect in a variety of settings. You can talk with one other person. They don't have to have shared the experience, but they can. You can talk in a group. Now usually that's a group of people who've all shared the experience. Or you can write or record your thoughts in a journal or a paper or some other format. Now, as you listen to this and think about it, you may be thinking, wait a minute, how am I going to be graded on this? Because it's my opinion. How could it be right or wrong? Well, you're not going to be graded. But you certainly can get feedback on how well you included the components of reflection. Did you answer all the questions? Did you address the what, the so what, and the now what? Remember that reflection's a skill, and you're going to get better at it with practice. Now here's an example of a feedback form that might be used for you to see the strengths and weaknesses of a reflection that you wrote or recorded. Each one of these can be given a score of 0 to 4, 0 meaning you left it out, NA meaning, well, that didn't really apply to this situation, and then there'll be comments. And you do that for the components that you see on here, which should be familiar to you by now. So you could do this yourself. You could look at a reflection that you did. You could look at a reflection that a friend did. Or someone else can do this for you and give you some feedback. Now, if you want, you can stop here and just exit the presentation. You can practice reflection on your own, or you may be asked to reflect in class or as part of a Pathways experience. Now, if you want to learn more about reflecting on pathway experiences, you can keep going. You still here? Okay. So one of the pathway experiences you're going to have involves developing personal interests. You might, for example, go to a concert, see a play, attend a lecture, or take a tour of the art on campus. Here's some reflection questions you could ask or be asked. Remember, you always start with a brief recap. First, we go to the what. I'm not going to read these to you. You can read them for yourself, and they should be starting to sound familiar by now. But then we go to the so what. What do you think you learned? What questions are you left with? Are you interested in learning more? And how can you pursue other opportunities in this area? Now, another pathway experience that you might have will involve career development. You might, for example, take an interest inventory. You might visit a company, do job shadowing, have a mock interview. And here's some reflection questions that you could ask yourself or be asked. Again, we always begin with a brief recap of the event. Then we move to the what, which will look very similar to other sets of reflective questions. And we go to the so what. What did you learn about your strengths? What did you learn about job and career possibilities? And then, importantly, we go to the now what, asking you what you're going to do in the future. I hope these slides have been helpful to you. I hope that you will practice reflection, and I know if you do that, you're going to get better at it. Thanks for your time, and good luck.